Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of the Concession Stand here on the KB Radio Network. And this is the review of Prime Video's Invincible Season 2, Episode 4, entitled It's Been a While. And it's going to be a while until we get the next episode because it's going on hiatus. But man, what an episode. This is hands down my favorite superhero show in a long time. I have not felt this much joy from a superhero show. Man, only thing that comes to mind is X-Men the animated series. That's the last time I had this much joy watching an animated superhero show. This is so well done and so exciting. I mean, you take the superhero element out of it and it's still an amazing show. And his latest episode just proves my point. Episode 4, it's been a while. It's been building up to this. It's been building up to this kind of a crescendo involving Mark and Nolan, his dad, aka Omni-Man. And we got that epic cliffhanger from episode 3, where Mark was taken to this planet under false pretense. He gets there, and their emperor turns out to be Omni-Man and greets Mark like, hey, everything's hunky-dory. Sorry, my bad for beating you half to death, but all is forgiven. And the episode ends on that note. So when we pick up in episode 4, it begins, we get kind of the backstory, so to speak, of what Nolan has been up to since he left Earth in despair after realizing what he did to his son and what he was going to do to this planet, planet Earth, that is. And he left. And so we get a montage of what Nolan was up to for those few months. I don't remember exactly how long it's been from that moment to now. They said it in the show, but it's escaping my mind. It probably popped in my head during the show. But anyways, he flies into space alone, no direction. He just wanders. And eventually he ends up at a black hole, and he went there and with the thought of killing himself. He was going to just fly into the black hole and get sucked into it. But at that same moment, a ship arrives and they're about to get sucked into this black hole, and his instincts kicked in and he saved the ship and returned it to his home planet. And so to show their appreciation, they begged him to stay and be their protector. And so that's where he ends up, and that's where we meet him at the end of last episode. Now we're back in the present day, and we pick up to where we left off last, and Mark confronts Nolan. And after some, tense moments, of course, Nolan still has his hand out, and Mark, he balls up his fist like they were about to go to battle again, and then he reaches out and he hugs his father. And I thought that was a unexpected moment and deep moment, because at the end of the day, Mark loves his father, of course. He wants his father, and he still doesn't understand why his father did what he did, but he still loves his father. But he's still angry because he does lash out at his father. He does have this deep-rooted anger towards his father, of course, because he almost killed him, And he goes on this tirade, and he tries to fly away. Mark tries to fly away, and Nolan is, just trying to plead with him. Like, please, I need you to stay. I need you for something. It's important. And he's like, I'm not trying to hear it. I'm not trying to hear it. Now you want to be my dad. Now you want to be this hero. And Nolan tells him, look, I need you to stay. I need you to protect these people. Help me protect these people because they're in danger. And Mark is like, why don't you have, where was this energy when you was on Earth? You know, you wanted to take over Earth. Now all of a sudden you want to come here and take over these people. And so Mark being Mark, he can't just leave these people behind. He knows, okay, if they're truly in danger, he's obligated in a way to help them. So he goes back down with his father, and we get another big reveal. Not only is his father the emperor of this planet or the protector of this planet, ruler, whatever, he has a wife. And not only does he have a wife, they have a child together. So Mark has a half brother. So boom, boom, boom. It was like a nuclear bomb of mic drops in the first 10 minutes of this episode. You're like, man, what is going on? But I'm loving it. It is not oversaturated with gotcha moments. This is really some good storytelling here. And man, I was all on board. So now he has this half brother here. And the baby looks about 2 years old or whatever. And so now Mark is tripping out. He's like, man, you cheated on my mom. You still married to my mom, and this, that, and the third. And this is when he says how long he's been gone. It's only been a few months. And so he's like, that baby is older than a few months old. So you've been with these people. And Nolan explains, no, this is a different species. You know, they grow faster. They have different metabolisms or whatever the case may be. And so the baby is only a baby, but the baby is just growing rapidly. And so the whole thing was, once the Vertramites find out about this child, they're going to come and destroy the planet. And basically Nolan wants Mark to help him fight the Vertramites to save his family, to save these people. And this is what infuriates Mark more. Like, you want to save these people, but you didn't want to save Earth. But like Nolan said, you know, I left Earth. You know, I decided to abandon that. I'm gonna leave Earth alone so that they won't come and conquer Earth, and so on and so forth. So they have this back and forth about that. So back on Earth, we revisit Debbie, Mark's mother, Nolan's a strange wife, I guess you can say. And she's wandering aimlessly around the city. She's just walking. She's in deep depression. It's like she's at the lowest point. I don't think she can get any lower than where she is right now. I was actually afraid throughout this episode, or at least this first part of the episode, that she might take her life. I think she was getting to that point, especially that scene when she was standing on the bridge and she was just looking off. I was like, oh my God, she's going to do it, you know, because she is that low. And I'm telling you, man, Debbie is the MVP of this season so far. I'm so invested in that story. Her dealing with this variation of PTSD, this trauma that she has went through with her love of her life, you should say, her husband being this just ultra villain, this, you know, the bringer of destruction on Earth. And it's tearing her apart. And she doesn't know how to deal with it. She goes and visits the little fake grave that they have for Nolan, and she just lashes out, you know. And oh my God, I felt it. It was such a good scene. And she is just going through it, people. It is, oh my God, it's brutal. We get a little Donald in this episode. Donald is trying to figure out what's going on. Why is Debbie acting kind of weird around him? Because Debbie knows what happened to him in the first season, where Omni-Man ripped out his spine, killed him, and and now all of a sudden he popped up in season 2. Now Donald goes to pay Debbie a visit, but this is around the same time Debbie is at the grave site, going off going off at the grave. And so she doesn't answer the door, of course. So Donald's instincts lead him across the street where all this took place in that safe house he used to manage while monitoring Omni-Man. And so he kind of ravages through the rubble there, and Donald finds his glasses. And he's like, wait, this is this isn't right. So it kind of confirms his suspicion that something isn't right here, And so this leads him down a rabbit hole. Now we go to Adam Eve. Adam Eve, she goes to visit Amber and William at the college, and she's trying to connect with Mark, and she's texting him and everything, but there's no answer, of course, because he's off planet. And so she's had this little, fallout with her dad, of course, from a couple of episodes ago, and she's trying to reach out because maybe Mark can talk to her about it, because who knows better about fallouts with their father than Mark. So we go back to the alien planet, and Nolan is trying to, convince Mark to help out and trying to explain to him what took place with the alien that he has this affair with, I guess, and the explanation of the new son aging rapidly and all this here. And he also tells him that they have a mutual enemy here, the Vertramites, who will be coming to punish Nolan for leaving Earth, And so Nolan makes Mark aware that the Vertramites will come after him and his new son, who they will most certainly kill once they find out who he is. It's because they feel that this alien race is a lower breed of life form, so they will just wipe him out. And so protecting his family and protecting innocence are all that Nolan thinks Mark needs as motivation. And he's right. He's right. So Mark thinks it over, because this would mean he'll have to team up with his father. But it's a moot point. The Vertramites show up. It's the same three Vertramites who tracked down and killed Alan in the last episode. So Mark takes Andreas, who is the new wife of this alien race, and his half brother to safety in the caves beneath the planet. And he learns that the lifespan of this race is only one Earth year, but his half brother is aging at a slower pace than that, so he will live longer. And so he also hears the softer side of I guess you could say, the relationship between Nolan and her, and how she fell in love with him after he had saved their ship, because she was on that ship. And it was touching, because you understood, and she explained, like, I didn't know. When I found out about you and your mother on Earth, I had already fell in love with Nolan. And so it's like, well, man, I kind of get that. I kind of get it, and it's heartbreaking at the same time. But we didn't have we didn't have long, because one of the Vertramites shows up in the cave, and Mark battles to protect his father's new family, I guess you can say. And the Vertramite proves that he's even more ruthless than Nolan. And Mark is quickly overwhelmed until his father shows up and saves him. Now, Nolan and this Vertramite have a savage battle. And I mean savage. At one point, one of the pillars was about to crush Andreas and his half brother, and Mark decides to save them instead of helping his father, which was an awesome little scene there. And man, Nolan unleashed on this Virtuamite. I mean, disemboweled the man. All of his intestines was everywhere. I mean, he tore him up. And so Nolan goes and tells Mark that, look, okay, we got one. That's one, but there are two more we have to fight. And so back on Earth, we go back to Adam Eve. And Adam Eve has been sleeping at the Guardians of the Globe safe house in the city, and while she's there, Kill Cannon, one of these lower level villains, shows up there to steal Robot's old little power sources. And so he wasn't expecting Adam Eve to be there, and they begin to fight. So while they're fighting, which was a good fight, Eve battles the Kill Cannon. It goes on to a bridge, and things go crazy at that point, where Adam Eve and Kill Cannon was destroying the bridge, and one of the cars on the bridge was about to go over it, and she tries to save the two elderly people inside of the car before it went into the river or whatever. But while she's holding on to the car with her, her little power source, Kill Cannon had kicked her or did something. I forgot. I think kicked her in the face or something, and that allowed her power to let go of the car, and the car plunged into the river. And she dives in to save this couple, and she managed to get them out of the car and get them back on the bridge, but they were still severely injured. And so at this point, Eve can't handle another case of her hero work going awry, and she is left even more emotionally distraught than she was before. It seems like the more she tries to help, the more damage she causes, and she is just done. And she is just done at this point. Now we return to Debbie, who is at the house, and she's pulling out photos of the family, the good times that they were having, and she's visited by Art, who is the costume designer for all the heroes, and he pops up to check on her, see how she's doing. First she tries to lie, and then she said, no, I'm not fine, I'm not good. And they have a conversation about one of the photos in particular, where Nolan is teaching Mark how to ride a bike, and she tells Art that, I took this photo. Right after I took this photo, Nolan flew off to go battle this monster or whatever, and I had to teach Mark how to ride the bike. And Art finally gets through to Debbie after pointing out that she was always the stronger person. She's the stronger person out of all three of them, Mark, Nolan, and her. And she's kind of confused by that, and Art explains to her that she had to cover all of Nolan's shortcomings and probably help save Earth, because if it wasn't for the way that she raised Mark, the love that she showed Mark, that's why Mark is who he is, not because of Nolan, it's because of Debbie. And she was never dependent on Nolan or weaker because of Nolan. And it was quite the opposite. And it's exactly what Debbie needed to hear. And she finally finds a way to move on. Such a powerful scene. I mean, out of all the action and punchy and all this here that was going on in this episode, the scenes with Debbie, I'm telling y'all, the MVP, man. Just the scenes with Debbie and her story going throughout this season thus far has been amazing, and I loved this arc. and for her to find some type of clarity, some type of what's the word I'm looking for here? Purpose to move forward. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We go back to Donald, and Donald can't let go, of course, of, of his curiosity of what is going on. And so he hacks into the computer archives at the headquarters and finds the security footage from that safe house the day he quote unquote died. And needless to say, it left him a little shook. You know, he he sat there and watched himself get murdered. I mean, I think that would mess you up too. And so we go back to the alien planet, and Nolan is feeling more emotion about the death and destruction that the Vertramites have caused. And he's both furious and bewildered because he doesn't understand. And so he lashes out at Mark, which was kind of confusing there. I'm like, why is he choking Mark? Because he didn't know, being as though he's not human. So his emotions, he don't understand it because they don't have those type of emotions. The Vertramites, they don't have that. And so he's like bewildered by why he feels so much pain of these alien creatures being just wiped out by these Vertramites. And why does he want to help them so much? Why does he feel empathy? And that's just an emotion that they don't possess, but he does. And so the conversation between him and Mark gets interrupted when the final two Vertramite soldiers show up. And here we go for round two. And it was, once again, brutal. It was it was brutal. At one point, Nolan takes Mark aside and chastises him on how he's fighting this Vertramite, the female Vertramite, because she was handling him, and he's getting hot with him. He's like, man, look, you're a Vertramite. You need to fight like a Vertramite. Don't fight like an Earthling. And Mark is like, I'm human. You know, I won't kill. I won't do this. And he's like, man, forget that. You need to unleash your killer instinct. You need to let it out, or you're going to be murdered. And so Mark, he continues to fight this female soldier, and she has a razor blade at the end of her little hair braid, which is cool, boy. I mean, it was cool the way her character is designed. And finally, he starts to lay the smackdown on it. he at one point he just said, forget it. And he unleashed his Vertramite side. He went pure ham, and to the point he had the upper hand on her. And in the end, though, when he had the upper hand, he had about a hair, and he was about to punch a hole through her head. He stopped. He hesitated. He couldn't do it. And so, on the other hand, Nolan, he slaughtered his opponent. He crushed that dude head. My God, bro, this is he crushed the dude head in. But Mark, on the other hand, he hesitates, and that was his demise, but in so to speak, because she stabs him in the stomach with her razor that's on the razor blade that's on the tip of her braid. And so at this point, Nolan comes in, fights her, and demolishes her. He brutally demolishes her before she can finish off Mark. And so at that moment, the first Vertramite that they fought in the cave, he shows back up, and he's still carrying his guts in his arms as he takes out Nolan. I mean, takes him out with a drop kick to the spine, and you heard the bones just crack when he kicked him. And he told him, like, next time you kill somebody, make sure they're dead. And he drops dead at that moment. So, but before he could go, he gave the final blow, and that was pretty awesome. So Mark wakes back up after just being demolished, and he sees the Vertramites are there and they're taking Nolan in to custody, and Mark calls out to him. He's like, Dad. And Nolan begs Mark to remember the good he did for Earth and employs, read the books I wrote. It's clear the books hold some type of important knowledge for Mark, which is a good little Easter egg. But we're going to find out later that there may be a hiccup there. But he's employing, like, I did do good. Remember the good. Don't remember what I did to you. Just remember the good. And so they wheel Nolan onto this ship. So we go back to Earth and we see that Debbie she decided that, she's getting her groove back now. So now she doesn't want any ties to Cecil and the organization and Nolan. She's done with it. All the financial help that they were giving her, she doesn't want it. So she puts all of Nolan's belongings on the curb, and in those belongings were the novels. And so she leaves all that there. And so I guess the rest of this episode or the rest of this season is probably Mark returning back and he's trying to find the books now that Debbie has let go. So we go back to the headquarters where Donald, he goes into the bathroom. Once again, he is just emotionally done because he doesn't know what he is. And so he goes into the bathroom, rolls up his sleeve and takes a knife and stabs himself in the arm. And he wanted to see if he was human. So he stabs himself in the arm and he sees blood and he confirms that he's human. And so he kind of sighs. He lets out a big breath and he's like relieved. But just then he looks at the knife. And when I'm looking, they don't really show it, but he's like looking at the knife like it was strange. And I'm like, well, there's blood on it. He should be all right. It perfectly directed here. And then they do a close up on the knife and we see that the tip was bent. And this is a knife. You can't bend a knife like that. Because he stabbed. He didn't just cut himself like a normal human being probably would have, but he just stabbed himself in the arm. And he noticed that the tip was bent. So now Donald realized that he's not as human as he thinks he is. But just before he can kind of flip out, Cecil calls him on the comms and he needs to get back to work. So we go back to the planet and we see Mark is visited by General Craig. And this was an awesome scene too. And Craig tells him that despite him losing this battle, he's earned a chance to be part of the Vertramite Empire. And so when Mark starts to refuse this, Craig punches him. punches blood all. He laid into him. And so he informs him that Nolan is going back to Vertram to be executed for desertion. And Mark now has to go back to Earth as the new Vertramite agent in charge of preparing Earth for a peaceful conquest to be taken over. And if he doesn't, the Vertramites will come to Earth and wipe out billions if he doesn't comply. So he wishes Mark good luck and leaves him bloody and broken on this planet. And so, man, what an episode. What a season so far. This has been a joy, man. I'm going to hate to have to wait all these weeks till they come back because this is premium television right here, folks. I am loving this, and what a way to end this first half of this second season of Invincible. This has been a joy. I can't wait to see what's next. What impresses me so much about this show is the way it's written. It's so much going on, but it's not leaving you with questions. You know, you have your cliffhangers and you know what's going to happen next, but it's not stupid stuff. You know, like the typical shows will leave you hanging with certain storylines and all this here. No, it is done right. And normally you wouldn't think that's hard to do, but not too many shows do it, so it must be pretty difficult to do. But this show manages to do it right, man. I mean, this has been a joy. I hope that you are enjoying this show as much as I am. If you're not, I got enough enjoyment to go around. And this, so you can take some of mine if you're not feeling it as much. Just take some of mine, and you'll be all right. This is awesome, man. Invincible season 2 is amazing. I would like to know how you feel about the show so far. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit me up on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also on YouTube, the KB Radio Network channel. Subscribe and like this video if you don't mind. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Invincible Season 2, Episode 4, entitled, It's Been a While. Oh, man. I'm gonna miss this, man. This is gonna be the worst holiday season ever. I just want, you know what I want for Christmas? Invincible. That's what I want. I don't know how long I can wait for this, man. I am truly enjoying this show thus far. I hope everybody has had a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you didn't eat too much till you got sick. I tried to pace myself, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out. I am full as a tick, and I'm and still got buku leftovers in there, so I'll be eating good for the next few days. But I hope everybody had fun with their family and their loved ones this holiday. Oh man, this was a good one for me. I really enjoyed it. Then I came back home and Invincible was on, so this was an awesome Thanksgiving, and I hope everybody had an awesome Thanksgiving as well. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everybody, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.